We chose our golden son over our other son's marriage. Now he's gone and we can't find him. The day he stole our daughter-in-law's ring and we covered it up, our other son gave us one chance to stand with him. We didn't, and he walked out of our lives forever. Tyler is 41 years old and he's in a rehabilitation center in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's his third time. Robert and I paid for the first two. His counselor sent us a letter last month asking if we'd be participating in family therapy. Nathan never responded to that letter. Nathan doesn't respond to anything we send. Nathan blocked our numbers 3 years ago and has not unblocked them. His wife Claire left him 18 months after that. Nathan still hasn't come back. We chose Tyler. We lost Nathan. And Tyler is still Tyler. That's the whole story. But let me tell you how it happened. Because I need someone to understand exactly what we did and exactly why we did it and exactly why we were wrong. Tyler was born first. 19 months later, Nathan arrived. From the beginning, they were different in ways I told myself were just personality. Tyler was loud. Magnetic. The kind of child who walked into a room and made adults turn their heads. He smiled at strangers. He remembered names. At 6 years old, he charmed our neighbor Mrs. Patterson into giving him cookies every single afternoon just by asking how her garden was doing. Robert used to laugh about it. He'd say that boy could sell ice to Alaska. We said it like it was a compliment. Nathan was quiet. Not shy. Quiet. He was the kind of child who figured things out on his own, brought you the finished product, and moved on to the next thing without needing applause. At 6 years old, he disassembled our broken kitchen timer, fixed something inside it, and put it back together without telling anyone. I only found out when I noticed it was working again. I asked him and he shrugged and said he just looked at it. I should have seen it then. Nathan didn't need our attention because he learned early that he wasn't going to get it. Tyler needed everything. Our eyes. Our reassurance. Our applause. Our money. Our intervention. Our forgiveness. Always our forgiveness. And we gave it. Every time. We gave it because watching Tyler struggle felt like watching ourselves fail. Tyler's charm was our pride. His problems were our embarrassment. We could not stand to be embarrassed by our golden boy. So we fixed his messes. And we asked Nathan to understand. Nathan understood for 20 years. And then he stopped. The stealing started small. That's how it always starts with people like Tyler. Small enough that you can explain it away. $20 from Robert's wallet in 2008. Tyler was 19. Robert noticed. Tyler said he'd meant to ask but forgot. Robert let it go. I agreed we should let it go. $50 from my purse in 2009. Then $100. Then Robert's watch went missing for 3 weeks and came back without explanation. Tyler said he'd borrowed it for a job interview. The watch had scratches that weren't there before. We said nothing. By 2011 we understood the pattern, but we did not name it. Naming it would have made it real. Instead we moved our valuables. We kept our wallets in the bedroom. We told each other Tyler was just going through a phase. He was 22. 23. 24. The phase didn't end. Nathan knew. He watched us shuffle our things quietly around the house when Tyler visited. He never said anything directly. But once, in 2012, he sat across from me at the kitchen table and said, "Mom, you know what he's doing, right?" I said Tyler has some struggles but he's working through them. Nathan looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded and picked up his coffee. That nod. I think about it a lot now. It was an agreement. It was the sound a door makes when it closes quietly. Not a slam. Just a soft click. Nathan filing away one more piece of information about who we were. Nathan met Claire in 2013. She was a structural engineer. Precise. Careful. The kind of woman who measured twice and cut once and then checked her measurements again. She was nothing like the women Tyler dated, who were mostly beautiful and temporary and completely dazzled by his personality. Claire looked at Tyler once, looked back at Nathan, and that was that. I didn't dislike Claire. I want to be clear about that. I didn't dislike her. I just never made room for her. There's a difference. Disliking someone is active. What I did was passive. I forgot to include her in things. I talked about family memories that predated her and didn't notice when she went quiet. I asked Tyler's girlfriend at the time about her job and forgot to ask Claire about hers. I cooked dishes for Sunday dinners that Nathan had grown up loving and didn't think to ask what Claire might like. Robert did the same. We weren't cruel. We were careless in a way that added up. Claire noticed. I know she noticed because Nathan told us once, gently, that Claire sometimes felt like an outsider at family events. We said we didn't mean to make her feel that way. We said we'd do better. We probably tried for one Sunday dinner and then went back to what was comfortable. Tyler's girlfriend at the time. I can't even remember her name now. That's how much room we made for her. But she was Tyler's, so she mattered. Nathan and Claire got married in October 2015. It was a Saturday. The venue was a renovated farmhouse 40 minutes outside the city. Claire wore her grandmother's dress, altered to fit her. Simple. Cream-colored. She looked beautiful. Tyler was Nathan's best man. Nathan's choice. At the time I thought it was generous. Now I think Nathan was still trying. Still reaching for a version of his family that was never going to exist. Tyler gave a toast. It was funny. It was warm. 7 minutes of Tyler being the most charming version of himself. The version that made people forget every other version. The room laughed. Robert and I were proud. We were proud of Tyler. At Nathan's wedding. That tells you everything. Nathan and Claire danced their first dance to a song I didn't recognize. They were looking at each other the whole time. I remember thinking they looked settled. Not giddy. Settled. Like two people who had made a decision they were both completely sure of. I didn't tell Claire she looked beautiful until 2 days later when I remembered to send a text. The ring was Claire's grandmother's. Oksana. Ukrainian. Claire's family had come here in the 1970s with very little, and the ring was one of the things they brought. White gold. Simple band. Small oval sapphire. Claire wore it every day on her right hand. She never took it off except to sleep. I knew what it meant to her. She had told me about it once, early on, before I had fully decided not to pay attention. She said her grandmother gave it to her when she was 16. Said it was the only thing of value her grandmother owned, and she wanted Claire to have it while she was still alive to see her wear it. Claire's grandmother died 6 months after giving it to her. Claire had worn the ring for 15 years. I knew what it meant to her. This is important. What happened next cannot be explained away as ignorance. We knew. Tyler moved back home in the spring of 2017. He was 37 years old. He had lost his apartment. He said his roommate situation had fallen apart. He said he just needed a few months. We said yes. We said of course. We said family helps family. Nathan said nothing when we told him. That nod again. That quiet door. Tyler was home for 6 weeks before the ring went missing. Claire noticed on a Wednesday. She and Nathan came for Sunday dinner every other week. The week before, the ring was on her hand. The following Wednesday she looked down and it was gone. She searched the house. She searched her car. She called us to ask if she had left it behind. I said I hadn't seen it. I was lying. I had found it in Tyler's jacket pocket 3 days earlier when I was doing laundry. Robert and I stood in the kitchen for a long time after I showed him. I don't remember who spoke first. I remember we did not call Nathan. I remember we did not call Claire. I remember Robert driving to a jewelry store the next day and coming home with a ring that looked similar. White gold. Small sapphire. Close enough, he said. Close enough. We put it on Claire's nightstand the next time she visited and said nothing. We thought it was over. We thought we had handled it. Claire picked it up and looked at it. Turned it over in her fingers. Put it on. She didn't say anything at dinner. But 2 weeks later Nathan called. He said, "The ring isn't the same ring." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Claire had that ring for 15 years. She knows every scratch on it. She knows the weight of it. She knows the way the setting sits. That ring is not her ring. Where is her ring?" I looked at Robert. Robert looked at me. We told him. Nathan was silent on the phone for 45 seconds. I counted. I stood in the kitchen and counted the silence because I could not think of anything else to do. Then he said, "You found it in his pocket and you replaced it with a fake and you said nothing." I said, "We were going to tell you. We needed time to figure out how to handle it." He said, "You had time. You used that time to buy a replacement ring and hope Claire wouldn't notice. That's not handling it. That's covering it up." I said, "We didn't want to create conflict." He said, "You didn't want to create conflict." He hung up. Tyler admitted it immediately when Nathan confronted him. He said he needed money. He said he panicked. He said he was sorry. He cried. Tyler was very good at crying. He had been crying his way out of consequences since he was 7 years old, and it had always worked because we had always let it work. Nathan was not interested in the crying. Nathan wanted the ring back. Tyler had already sold it. The money was gone. Tyler didn't know the name of the shop. We paid to have the ring traced. Robert called every pawn shop and jewelry reseller in a 40-mile radius. It took 11 days. We found it. We paid $2,200 to buy it back. We thought this would fix things. We thought money could repair what Tyler had taken. We gave Claire back her grandmother's ring. And waited for things to go back to normal. Things did not go back to normal. Claire was done. Not angry. Not screaming. Done. There is a difference. Angry people negotiate. Done people have already decided. She told Nathan she was not comfortable being in spaces with Tyler. She was not asking Tyler to be removed from the family. She was asking that she not be required to be in the same room with him at family events. She said this was not an ultimatum. She was just telling him where she stood. Nathan came to us and relayed this. He was not asking us to choose. He was asking us to hear it. Robert said, she needs to understand that Tyler is struggling. He said it like struggle explained everything. Like struggle was a pass you could hand to someone whose property you had stolen. I said, she's being a little rigid. I said that. I used that word. Rigid. About a woman whose grandmother's ring had been stolen and replaced with a fake by our son while we watched and said nothing. We called a family dinner. We invited Nathan and Claire. We invited Tyler. We sat around the table and Robert said he thought we needed to come together as a family. He said Tyler had made mistakes but he was working on himself. He said Claire's feelings were valid but family meant pushing through hard things. Claire sat across from Tyler and looked at him and then looked at Robert and said, "Did you just ask me to push through my feelings about what happened?" Robert said, "We're just asking for grace." Claire put her napkin on the table. She said, "I have given this family 4 years of grace." She stood up and walked out. Nathan sat for a moment looking at his father. Then he stood up and followed her. We called Nathan the next day. He picked up. He said, "Don't." I said, "We're just trying to keep the family together." He said, "You keep saying that. Family. What you mean is Tyler. You want to keep Tyler comfortable. You have always wanted to keep Tyler comfortable. That is not the same thing as keeping the family together." I said, "That's not fair." He said, "Mom, I have watched you cover for him my entire life. I have watched you move your wallet. I have watched you replace broken things and say nothing. I have watched you look at me at Sunday dinners and not see me because Tyler was in the room. I married a woman who is kind and patient and good and she has spent 4 years trying to belong to this family and you just asked her for grace after your son stole her dead grandmother's ring." I didn't say anything. He said, "I need you to be on my side. Just once. Just this one time. Be on my side." Robert was beside me. I looked at him. He looked at me. I said, "Tyler is your brother." Nathan said, "Yeah. He is." He hung up. He didn't block us for another 2 weeks. I think he was waiting. Giving us a window. Hoping we would call back and say we had thought about it and we understood. Hoping we would show up on his doorstep and say we were wrong. We didn't. We called Tyler instead. We asked how he was feeling. We asked if he was eating. Tyler said he was struggling with the tension in the family. He said he felt like the bad guy. We said he wasn't the bad guy. We said he was going through a hard time and we supported him. Tyler said, "Do you think Nathan will come around?" We said, "Give it time." 2 weeks after that dinner, Nathan's number went to a message saying this contact was unavailable. Claire's number did the same. Their address had been the same apartment for 3 years. We drove past it 6 weeks later. Different name on the mailbox directory. They had moved and not told us where. Robert and I sat in the car outside their old building for a long time. Neither of us spoke. The directory had 7 names on it and none of them were Nathan's. All of them were strangers. Robert said, "He'll come back when he calms down." I said, "Right?" I didn't believe it. I think Robert didn't believe it either. But we said it because the alternative was sitting in that car and admitting what we had done. We drove home. Tyler was on the couch watching television. He asked how the drive was. We said fine. We sat down and watched television with him and said nothing about the empty directory. The next 6 months were quiet in the way that things are quiet after something breaks. Not peaceful. Just the absence of the noise that used to exist. Tyler had a job for 3 months. Then he didn't. He said the manager had it out for him. Robert gave him money for rent. Tyler said he was looking for a new position. We didn't ask too many questions. We already knew the pattern. We had always known the pattern. We had just never been willing to say it out loud. Robert's sister called in month 4. Aunt Miriam. She lived 2 states away and she had somehow gotten Nathan's new number and spoken to him. She didn't tell us what he said. She just called to tell us he was okay, that he and Claire were okay, and that he had asked her not to share the number. I said, "Did he say anything about us?" Miriam paused. Then she said, "He said he hopes you're well. Hopes you're well. Not miss you. Not angry at you. Not wants to hear from you. Hopes you're well." The language of someone who has filed you away. Who has made peace with your absence the way you make peace with a scar. It's there. It doesn't hurt anymore. You've just stopped noticing it. I hung up and stood at the kitchen sink for a long time. In month 7 I found something on Facebook. Claire had a privacy gap somewhere, a friend of a friend of a friend. I'm not proud of how I found it. But I found it. It was a Saturday morning. Nathan in a kitchen I didn't recognize. He was making something at the stove. He was laughing at something off camera. He had a coffee mug that said a city I didn't know he'd visited. He was wearing a t-shirt from somewhere I didn't recognize. He looked good. He had cut his hair differently. He looked happy. Not performed happy. Not trying to seem fine happy. Actually happy. The way he looked at his wedding when they were dancing and he wasn't looking at anyone but her. I showed Robert. Robert looked at it for a long time. Then he said, "Good. I'm glad he's doing well." I think Robert meant it. I think I meant it too when I said the same thing. And underneath that, both of us were crushed. Because we had told ourselves he would come back when he calmed down. And what that photo said was that he was calm. He had been calm for a long time. He just wasn't coming back. Claire left 18 months after the dinner. Nathan hadn't told us. Miriam found out through someone else and called to let us know, gently, the way she delivered all difficult news. I asked if they were okay. She said Nathan was okay. She said Claire had reached a point where too much had happened. She said she didn't know the details. I knew the details. I knew them because Nathan had said them on the phone before he hung up for the last time. Tyler had stolen from Claire. We had covered it up. We had replaced what was taken with a fake and hoped she wouldn't notice. And when she had every right to protect herself by asking for distance, we had called her rigid and asked her for grace. We had done that. Not Tyler. We had done that. Tyler just took the ring. We were the ones who decided the ring wasn't worth protecting her over. We were the ones who decided keeping peace with Tyler mattered more than keeping faith with Nathan's wife. Claire had stayed 18 months longer than she should have. She had tried. The marriage failed because we had hollowed it out from the inside and handed Tyler the tools to do it. Nathan still did not come back. Tyler went into his first rehabilitation program in November of that year. 30 days in a facility outside the city. Robert and I drove him. We sat in the intake lobby and filled out forms and held his hands and told him we were proud of him for taking this step. We drove home without speaking. Somewhere in a city we didn't know, Nathan was alone in an apartment we'd never seen, sorting through the wreckage of a marriage we had helped destroy. He had no idea we were proud of Tyler for taking a step. He probably would not have cared. Tyler lasted 22 days before he checked himself out. He said the program wasn't right for him. He said the counselor was adversarial. He said he had learned what he needed to learn and was ready to apply it in real life. We picked him up. We brought him home. We said okay. I sent Nathan a letter in the spring of the following year. 3 pages. I told him we loved him. I told him we were sorry. I told him we understood now that we had made mistakes. I told him Tyler was working on himself. I told him we hoped he and Claire were doing well and that we hoped someday we could all be in the same room again. I described Tyler's progress for most of page 2. I understand now why he didn't respond. A 3-page letter about how sorry you are should not include 1.5 pages updating the person on the brother who caused the damage. That's not an apology. That's a progress report with an apology letterhead. Nathan knew the difference. He always knew the difference. That was the thing about Nathan. He always saw things exactly as they were. He just stopped telling us what he saw. Robert sent a shorter note. 4 sentences. Nathan did not respond to that either. His address, wherever it was, received our letters and returned nothing. Tyler's second rehabilitation program was the following March. 21 days. He completed it this time. He came home and stayed sober for 4 months. 4 months is the longest he has ever gone. Robert and I restructured our lives around his sobriety. We stopped keeping alcohol in the house. We drove him to his meetings. We answered the phone at any hour. We were completely present for Tyler in a way we had never been for Nathan, because Nathan had never asked us for this level of presence. Nathan had never needed to ask. Nathan had always handled his own things. We called that self-sufficiency. We rewarded it with inattention. We punished Tyler's dependency with our complete devotion. In the 4th month, Tyler relapsed. He didn't tell us for 2 weeks. We found out from a charge on a shared account. $112 at a bar downtown on a Tuesday night. He cried. We held him. We said we'd figure it out together. Robert tried calling Nathan one more time. This was 2 years after the dinner. He used the number Miriam had given him, a new one Nathan had circulated to family he still spoke to. Nathan picked up. Robert said, Nathan. It's Dad. Nathan said, I know. Robert said, I just wanted to hear your voice. Nathan was quiet. Then he said, I'm okay, Dad. Robert said, we miss you. Nathan said, I know. Robert said, is there anything we can do? Nathan said, no. Robert said, do you think someday? Nathan said, I don't know, Dad. I really don't know. He wasn't angry. That was the thing Robert couldn't stop talking about afterward. He wasn't angry. He wasn't cold. He was just honest. He had moved somewhere past the anger into something quieter and more permanent. He was just a man who had made a decision and was living with it calmly. Robert sat in the kitchen for a long time after that call. He said, he sounded okay. He said it the way you say something true that also hurts. Miriam sent us a photo in December. Christmas at her house. Extended family. Nathan was there. He looked good. He had cut his hair differently again. He was laughing at something in the photo, head back, completely unguarded. There was a woman beside him, someone none of us had ever met. She had her hand on his arm and was laughing too. They were leaning toward each other the way people lean when they've decided something. No children in the photo. But the way they stood said there might be someday. In a life we have no access to. In rooms we'll never see. I printed the photo. I keep it in the kitchen drawer. I take it out sometimes. I spent a long time looking at his face. Trying to find some trace of the boy who fixed our kitchen timer without telling anyone. Who shrugged and said he just looked at it. He's in there. He's still in there. I just don't have access to him anymore. Tyler is in Scottsdale now. 3rd program. This one is 90 days and Robert and I are not paying for it. His counselor helped him apply for assistance. It took 3 months of paperwork and waiting. Tyler called us twice during that period, frustrated. We said we believed in him. We said he could do it. We do not have the money we used to have. Robert retired earlier than planned due to health issues. The money we spent on Tyler across 20 years, the covering, the replacing, the bailing, the rent, the 2 previous programs, is not a number I can look at cleanly. I have tried. I close the spreadsheet every time. There is no estate. There is a 3-bedroom house that we will sell when we're ready to downsize and use for our own care. Tyler will not receive that money because we have learned, slowly and painfully and too late, that giving Tyler money is not the same as helping Tyler. We learned that lesson while Nathan was still around to see if it would change anything. We just didn't act on it fast enough. I spoke to a therapist last year. She asked me in our 3rd session to describe both my sons in detail. I talked about Tyler for 20 minutes. His charm. His struggles. The way a room responded to him. His laugh. How scared I was for him. 20 minutes. Then she asked me to describe Nathan. I said, he's capable. He's steady. He handles things. He's good at his job. She waited. She said, what else? I said, he's private. He doesn't need much. She said, what does he love? What makes him laugh? What is he afraid of? What does he want for his life? I sat there. I did not know. I have known my son for 40 years and I could not answer a single one of those questions. I know Tyler's fears in granular detail because Tyler has shared them constantly and we have responded constantly. Nathan never shared and we never asked. She said, you didn't lose Nathan 3 years ago. He said something to you in that phone call that tells me exactly when you lost him. I said, when? She said, when he was 6 years old and fixed the kitchen timer and you didn't notice until later. Tyler will finish his program in Scottsdale in 6 weeks. We'll be there on the last day. We'll hold his hand on the way out. We will do this because we love him and because we have not stopped loving him. But I think about Nathan every day. I think about the nod. The quiet door. 20 years of Sunday dinners where Tyler was in the room and Nathan was also in the room and we only saw Tyler. I think about a boy in a kitchen at 6 years old, kneeling on the floor next to a broken appliance, taking it apart piece by piece, Figuring out what was wrong, putting it back together. Not asking for help. Not expecting applause. Just fixing the broken thing because it needed to be fixed. He's been doing that his whole life. For us. For this family. Quietly. Without applause. Without anyone noticing until it was already done. The kitchen drawer has one photo in it. I put it there because I don't know what else to do with it. I take it out and look at it and put it back. Head back. Laughing. Completely unguarded. A man in a kitchen somewhere, in a life I don't have access to. We chose Tyler. Every time. For 40 years. We chose Tyler's comfort over Nathan's need to be seen. We chose Tyler's tears over Claire's dignity. And we called it love. It wasn't love. It was fear. Fear of what it meant if our golden boy turned out to be exactly what he was. He lives somewhere we can't locate now. With someone we've never met. In a life that has no room for us in it. And the only photo I have of him is from someone else's Christmas, where he is laughing with his head thrown back and not looking for anyone. He stopped looking for us a long time ago. We just didn't notice until he was already gone. That's what choosing the wrong son costs. Not an explosion. Not a dramatic exit. Just a man who figured out, quietly and without applause, that we were a broken thing he didn't have to fix. And he was right.